Rakshanda.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I welcome you back on third session of third day of 1 week online faculty development program on skill development for employability and entrepreneurship, presented by Training and Placement Cell of Guru Jameshwar University of Science and Technology, Hisar, and sponsored by All India Council for Technical Education. Aptitude tells us about analytical skills of an individual, like if an individual have abilities to learn and perform in particular areas, on how the candidate tries to solve the problem and what is their approach. So the logical reasoning and the problem solving helps us to interpret your thoughts. That's the organization to decide whether you have it or not. So without any further delay, let's learn how to crack it. I would like to call upon Assistant Director of Training and Placement Cell of Guru Jameshwar University, Hisar, Mr. Aditya Veer Singh sir, to welcome our honorable speaker, Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary.
Thank you, Rakshanda. A warm welcome to our today keynote speaker, Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary. Most of you who are from Guru Jameshwar University must be knowing him very well. So I just give you a brief introduction about Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary. Currently, Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary is a Center Director for Time Education, which is Triumphant Education Management Education Private Limited. And he's looking after Hisar, Panipat and Karnal. He's an engineering graduate from the pioneering 1996 to 2000 batch of printing technology from Guru Jameshwar University of Science and Technology. And he has completed his master's in business management from Indian Institute of E-Business Management, Pune. He has overall experience of around 18 years as a trainer, mentor, entrepreneur, and consultant. And he has run successful ventures in the education sector and e-commerce, along with being a faculty also. He's a motivator and a speaker par excellence. He has conducted over hundreds of career workshops in all over the region. And as a quant faculty, he has earned respect and adulation of thousands of students from he has taught. And his hobbies are reading books, counseling, and teaching. So we have a very eminent personality with us. So I would request Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary to start today's session. Pankaj Chaudhary.
Okay. So very good afternoon to all of you. We are going to talk on a very important, interesting, and relevant topic that is aptitude and how do we really develop aptitude. So there are a few things that we really need to understand. One is, what is aptitude, firstly, and why it is so important for us, and how do we really improve our own aptitude. So if you simply put, aptitude is one's ability to learn and perform in any specific area. That is how you define an aptitude. Now you may be aware, if you're a college going students, you must be very much aware that all companies will conduct, an aptitude test before they hire for their recruitment process. Similarly, in jobs also, if you're looking to get into banking sector, or if you're looking to get into government sector through SSC, or even if you're looking to get into a senior position in government sector through UPSC, you could find that aptitude becomes an integral part of the testing process for you to get a job or for you to get an admission into some higher stream or higher education. So what makes it so critical, that we must have a good aptitude? See, if you look at this definition, I'm sure you can see this slide. It is one's ability to learn and perform in specific areas. You see, if you look at the life cycle of the jobs that are available in the market, it has drastically shortened. I mean, if you look at your parents and if you look at your grandparents, even if they were into a private sector job, they joined a particular company and they retired, after 25 years or 30 years of service from the same organization, from the same company, right? They kept on, getting promotions within the same organization, and they never changed. And in fact, they never thought of changing. But if you look at the life cycle of the employability, it has drastically shortened. Right now, an average life cycle of a senior management position is hardly 5 years, which was something around 15 to 20 years earlier. So what does it really say? It really says that that you need to be ready for the change that is going to happen. Why is the job cycle shortening? Because of the change that is happening in the environment. And when I say change in the environment, I mean to say the economic environment, the political environment, the social environment, whatever we do, whatever we live in this society, it is changing very, very fast. Now, if you really don't change according to the needs and the requirements, you are bound to fail. And these organizations, large organizations, are looking for people who have this innate ability of learning new things, right? They must have this ability of learning whatever the changes are happening in the organization. Because if a company is hiring somebody for a specific position, that position may no longer be present in the organization few years down the line. So the companies want people who are associated with them should have this ability to learn, to learn anything. Right? So aptitude is not just what we perceive it to be, like maths, English, reasoning. Yes, of course, it is the key way of testing it. I'm going to discuss that in detail. But however, aptitude essentially is your ability to learn. That is what is an aptitude. So you may have an aptitude for dancing, you may have an aptitude for singing, you may have an aptitude for playing, and so on and so forth. So this word aptitude is having a much wider and a broader perspective if you think of this word aptitude. So one must have this aptitude, right? So one must have this ability to learn, and not just learn, but perform whatever you have learned. That is more important. See, it is not just important for you to work hard. It is also important that you deliver results, right? It is not just that, you have been working, slogging out, but no marks, no placements, no learning. That's not good enough. That's not going to do. So that is the basic essence of aptitude. So I'm sure you understand this basic idea of aptitude. So now I told you aptitude is a very wide and a broad term. However, now in this very specific case, in the narrow definition of aptitude, which we all know and which we are trying to understand, I'm going to channelize and focus my energies there, because this is what will help you progress. This is what is going to help you move forward. And that's why it is important that we discuss this. So what does it really consist of? I told you aptitude is ability to learn. So you may say, sir, I have a great ability to sing. I have a great ability, in let's say swimming or anything. But having an ability in particular specific field is what you call as a talent. Now, your ability, if you're a good swimmer and then you also become a good footballer, you also become a good, orator, that is what is an aptitude, right? So your ability to, learn quickly, adapt, and then deliver results, that is an aptitude. Now, but if you look at this slide, I have given these 4 subjects in terms of, constituents of an aptitude. This is because an aptitude can be tested, right, in a particular manner. Now, since the term is very wide, it is broadly classified into 2 or 3 kinds of aptitude. One being, the verbal ability part, the second being the numerical ability part, and the third being the logical ability part. Now, if you look at any of these entrance examinations or any of these tests which gives you a job either in banking sector or SSC or in defense sector through CDS, if you look at any of these career options, you will find that you are subjected to what you call as an aptitude test. Now, when you're subjected to an aptitude test, you need to understand what it constitutes and what you'll be tested on and why you'll be tested on that. See, one important thing is, your verbal abilities. You'll be always tested on your verbal abilities. Why? Because the mode of communication, the mode of understanding, the mode of learning, the mode of acquiring information, delivering information is primarily a particular language, right? In this particular case, let us say English language, that is why I've written there English. So this is what you call as a verbal ability. This ability could be in any other language as well. But in this case, since most of our education has happened in English, most of the tests are in English, when we say verbal ability, we are looking at understanding of English language. What in English language we are just going to see subsequently. That's one thing that we need to know. The second thing is numerical ability. No matter which profession you have in your careers, you will require to have some basic understanding of elementary mathematics, right? Because you see, it is known that maths is a language of universe. So if someday anybody is explaining everything about universe and gods, chances are, they will do it through maths. So to that extent, maths is very important because it deals with numbers, it deals with calculations, it deals with coding, and therefore, you are required to use huge amount of bandwidth. If you're really good at maths, chances are you have a thorough understanding of things, what is happening around you. So that's one thing, that's second important thing that is part of aptitude. Then third is reasoning. You have to reason out things, right? I'll just discuss in details as well what is reasoning and how do we really improve this reasoning ability. But these are the three most important constituents of any aptitude test. Now, I've also mentioned here GK. Now, GK is generally an optional part of aptitude because GK can be, acquired in terms of by reading, revising, and learning. So most of the examinations do have this English, mathematics, and reasoning. And some of these examinations do have reasoning, GK also. Why do they have GK? We are just going to go through the subsequent slides. So let's discuss this in slightly more details. So I told you about, English language, verbal ability. So what does it really constitute? It constitutes your usage of English. That is how you're able to use English, right? The second is your vocabulary, because if you're good at any language, and language really consists of what? Words and the rules to use those words, right? So the words is nothing but vocabulary. The rules that are required to use is known as grammar. So these two things, if you're having a command over vocabulary and grammar, then you tend to have command over a language. It could be any language, Hindi, Sanskrit, Telugu, Tamil, Kannada, whatever. So if you have command over their grammar, if you have command over their vocabulary, then you certainly have command over the language. So in this case, we are really looking to have command over English language. Why English language? Because as I told you earlier, most of the exams will be conducted in English, most of your education has been done in English, and therefore it becomes important. One of the most critical part of English, is what we call as RC. RC means reading comprehension. So comprehension basically means, your ability to comprehend. Comprehend means, you read something, your understanding of what you have read, and your ability to draw out something, or your ability to really understand what is written there. That is known as comprehension. Now, in any of these entrance tests, you may be, tested or asked questions directly on vocabulary. You may be asked questions directly on grammar. You may be asked questions directly on RC or the usage. But it is not that vocabulary is in isolation with RC or RC is in isolation with grammar. They're all interdependent on each other. If you're good, good at RC, chances are you have a good vocabulary and a reasonable grammar. If you're good at vocabulary and grammar, chances are you'll have a reasonable, reading comprehension, and your ability to use English as a language will be substantially enhanced if you're good at all these four components. This is what you have, in terms of, in English language. Now, this is known as a verbal aptitude, So how do you really improve or develop this aptitude or this ability to perform good in this aspect of the aptitude? So there are a few simple things that we are expected to do. Reading is one of them, of course. If you're reading, if you're a voracious reader, let's say, you happen to read at least one novel in a month, 2 novels in a month, and you don't know anything about grammar, let's say, you say, sir, I've studied grammar in 7th, 8th, 9th, and I don't really remember I'm not good at rules. I'm not good at tenses. I don't know where to use gerunds, what is past participles. And I mean, let's say it's overwhelming. Now, this is truly a problem of everybody. You can't be really learning, knowing all the rules before, speaking something. It's very simple, just think of this. When you're speaking Hindi, right, you have this natural ability of speaking. If there's a text in Hindi, you simply read, you understand. You don't think in terms of कि पहले संज्ञा आएगा, फिर क्रिया आएगा, फिर सर्वनाम आएगा, क्रिया विशेषण तो रह गया बोलना. You don't think in those terms, right? If you make a sentence, you say a sentence, and it is technically correct sentence. So English needs to be learned in this fashion. If you think in terms of first, mugging up 5,000 words of vocabulary, learning all the rules of grammar, then you are going to understand English. No, it's not going to happen. It's the other way around. If you keep reading again and again, that is when you will understand vocabulary. That is when you will understand grammar. The simple trick is to start with reading newspapers and start with relatively easy newspapers. When I'm saying easy, I mean maybe you can start with Times of India, or Indian Express or the Tribune, and don't start with Hindu, because everybody will suggest you Hindu. If you're already a good reader, yes, Hindu is a great newspaper, specifically if you're preparing for any UPSC exams or SSC exams. The reason is they use more analytical English. They use more difficult words, and their vocabulary is far more rich. So in that sense, yes, it's a great newspaper. But if you're a beginner, you should start reading newspaper, whatever I've suggested, maybe Times of India, maybe Tribune. Now, why I'm saying newspaper and nothing else? Because generally the writers or the authors of the articles are fixed employees of these newspapers, right? So they have a tendency of writing or using a particular sentence or a particular word again and again. So if you keep reading these newspapers regularly, you tend to come across similar kinds of words, similar kind of grammar again and again. So when you come across anything which is repetitive, you tend to understand, you tend to learn. You may not know specific meaning of certain words, but sometimes, I mean, if you just think over yourself, sometimes you read a sentence, you read something, you don't know the meaning of word, but by reading the situation, by reading the word, the sentence, okay, this word would possibly mean this, right? So that is the kind of, habit that we need to get into so that we are able to improve our verbal ability. Writing is another next step. See, writing is all about expression. You will be able to write anything if and only if you have a reasonable or a good command over that particular language. Otherwise, you will not be able to write anything. Just think of it. I mean, if you have to draft a letter, I mean, it could be an office memo, it could be leave application, it becomes a task in itself. Then writing a report in itself is a very difficult thing to do. Writing an essay today is very difficult because you're not well versed with the language. And therefore, some of these, companies or colleges ask you to write an essay, because that shows whether you have the ability to express or not. Because you may be great, right? You may have so many ideas in your mind. You may be bubbling with, ideas and thoughts and knowledge. But unless you are able to present it, it's not going to work out. So that's the second thing that you need to do to really develop your verbal ability, verbal aptitude. Listen. That's another interesting way of learning. When you listen more and speak less sometimes, you learn. So what do you listen possibly? When I say listen, what do you really mean? I mean, you listen to good English songs, could be, you watch good English movies and listen to the dialogues. Why I'm saying something like this? Because if you watch a movie, say, for example, an English movie, you listen to those dialogues. There is a caption written below. So when you listen and read simultaneously, you understand, this is what he's trying to tell us. Not only that, there's a visual input also of the situation that is happening in the movie. So if you look what is happening in the movie, you listen to the dialogue, you are able to correlate the language with the action. And that is when you develop your verbal ability. And of course, if you speak the way you write, if you also speak, it not only helps you in your communication building, it also helps you in your, in your verbal ability. So if you have a good verbal aptitude, your chances are you are a good speaker, and vice versa. If you're a good speaker, you must be having a relatively good, verbal aptitude. And most importantly, I have revised. Now, unless you revise anything, you will forget, right? I'm not sure how authentic this data is, but I've read this that 80% of what you study and read, you tend to forget in next 24 hours. Right. So if you the first revision needs to happen after 24 hours, the second maybe after 48 hours, third maybe after 7 or 8 days. So if you really want to build something, you really want to learn something, you need to revise. So these are the key suggestions for you to do to develop your verbal aptitude. Right. So I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say, right? Okay, so
Yes, sir.
it looks like it's a monologue. Yeah, okay. At least somebody is giving me some input in chat. Okay, great. So it should not be monologue. Monologue is, only one person is going on speaking. So there's a dialogue. Dying is two. So two or more people speaking becomes a dialogue. Anyway, that's about verbal ability. Okay, so let's look at the other abilities that we need to develop. The next is what we call as quantitative ability or maths. Now, some of you, if you are a faculty or if you are students, those who have not taken up mathematics in 11th and 12th, right? There's a large number of people who dread maths, and we somehow managed to pass mathematics in 10th, but henceforth we thought that we are never going to encounter mathematics in our lives. But maths is something which you cannot escape with, right? Say, for example, no matter what you do, you are always looking to profit, have some sort of profit. It could be business, it could be job, it could be services. No matter what, you always think in terms of profit and loss. So the moment you think in terms of profit and loss, you realize that maths is involved. In life, no matter what you do, a marriage function, a social function, a purchase, a sale, whatever you do, it involves money, it involves transaction. And whenever it involves money or transaction, it involves numbers. And therefore, if somebody says that I'm really poor with numbers, right? If somebody really tells you in an interview, you say, you're not good at numbers, chances are you're not good at most of the things, because numbers is an integral part of your life, and you better be good at numbers. Every change that will happen in life, in job, in relationships, will have numbers involved in that. Even divorce has numbers involved in that. मुझे कितना मिलेगा, उसको कितना मिलेगा. A marriage has numbers involved in it. What is that I'm going to profit? नौकरी वाली ले आऊंगा तो क्या होएगा? होममेकर ले आऊंगा तो क्या होगा? And things like that. Of course, they are part of decision-making process. We are going to see that as well. But what I'm saying, I'm trying to emphasize the importance of numbers. And these involves very basic numbers. It does not involve, some Laplace transformation. It does not involve some sort of, surface integration or something like that. It involves elementary mathematics, elementary numbers. It involves percentages. It involves profits, loss, discounts. It involves simple interest, compound interest. Everybody who is part of this presentation either has borrowed money or will borrow money or will lend money. If you are, if you have big money, maybe you're going to help somebody. There's something called interest that's involved. You're expected to know what you're going to pay, what you're going to get. So maths is involved. So any organization, any college, if they think you have something in you, then they would want to test you on these mathematical skills. You cannot run away from this because it is part of your daily routine. And since it is elementary basic mathematics, what is essentially tested in majority of the aptitude tests is what you have studied till class 10th level. As I told you, they're not going to test you, on integration, differentiation, or high level trigonometry. They're only going to test you on elementary things: time, speed and distance, work and time, profit, loss, percentages, discounts, ratio, proportions, simple equations. So these are some of these topics that they're going to test you, because these are the topics that you're going to use in daily life. You're going to use them in basic reports. There are basic management tools that are available. If you're working into some government or private organizations, you need to take a lot of decisions. And how do you take decisions? You take decisions based on numbers. Now, if you don't understand numbers, if you're really poor at numbers, they're too elementary numbers, then God save us. And therefore, it is important that we, develop our numerical ability, and it is going to be useful no matter what you do, when you do. So it's important that you do. So how do you really start? Some of you, there are different people who are different phases of learning. So if somebody is at a bottom most let's say step of learning, for them, let me suggest you can start by solving your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th CBSE maths books. Why I'm saying something like this? Because you have already done that. Okay, you may not have done very well, but still you have done it. So once you do it again, you will be able to understand it much better. I keep telling this, this story that so at that point of time, we really worked hard. We, spent say 8 hours, 10 hours, 5 hours trying to study and learning this concept. We could not learn that point of time. So what makes you think that after leaving maths for, let's say, 7, 8 years, you're able to learn again? Let me tell you this, that over a period of time, a lot of water has flown under the bridge. That means a lot of passage of time has happened. And during that time, you have grown as a person, not only physically, but also mentally. When I say you have grown mentally, that means your capacity to process data and information has increased immensely, right? This is what we say, he's a very experienced person. You may see people who are not very educated, but their experience is such that they're able to take very good decisions. They're able to, help you substantially. Why is it happening? Because when you grow, the processing capacity of your brain grows. So whatever you are not able to do a few years ago, if you do it now, you have far more chances of succeeding in what you failed a few years earlier. Sometimes, let's say you start a venture, especially entrepreneurs. They say, okay, I have tried this 5 years earlier, I could not do it. So what makes you think you do it again? Yes, you can do it again because you've grown as a person. You've learned few things, from your mistakes. And therefore, you pick up the book. That's the first step, and start doing it. That's it, end of the story. Don't plan too much, Don't over process anything. Just pick up the book and start solving. As simple as that. That's it. That's all you have to do it. It's not easy, but then that's it. That has to be done. So what do you do from there? You first go through the conceptual understanding. That means you see the examples. There are certain, of course, theories given, and the formula is given, and then examples are given, and then for practice, exercise are given. So you follow this process, you will learn. Now, this is the learning process, learning part. How do you really enhance this ability, right? So this is you develop this ability. Now, if you want to enhance this ability, you enhance this ability by taking tests which are time-bound manner. See, let's say you are studying a particular topic, you're trying to understand, what is compound interest and simple interest, or you're really trying to figure out how do we calculate EMI. So I'm going to take a car, I need a 7 lakhs loan. My repayment tenure is 5 years, but the bank is charging me 12% rate of interest. Now this is a practical problem for me. What is my EMI? Of course, easiest way is to go to Google and find EMI calculator, put the data, and it will give you no problems. But what if you are an engineer, you want to really figure this out, whether it is correct or not? You need to know it. So somebody who knows how to get this done manually from their mind is the person whom the company wants, because they know if the system does not work, this person will work. And therefore, they will test you on this. So you have to do tests on time-bound manner. It's not important that you are able to solve the questions, right? It is important that you are able to solve these questions within the time-bound manner. Whenever a task is assigned to you, it is important that you finish the task, but it is far more important you finish it in time. Now, if you take substantially extra amount of time and you do good quality work, it will not be appreciated. Even if you do average and reasonable amount of work, but within your time which is allotted to you, it is far more appreciable activity than delaying it and doing it far better. So please understand this. This is very, very critical for you to take a call as to what is to be done. So practice in time-bound manner. Take test in a time-bound. And the last but not the least, maths is something, even if you understand, right? Even if you're able to solve, but you will find a similar kind of question in an examination, you'll not be able to solve. That's the reason is you are not practicing it. So maths is essentially a game of practice. It is not good enough that we are knowing it, because maths does not operate like this, especially your ability to solve questions in the exam. It works on your ability of practicing. So that's important. So that's how you develop your numerical ability. Okay, so then we have, type of reasoning. We need to reason it out. We have to, there's a sentence we say, everything happens for a reason. So why is this reasoning important? Because whenever you take a decision, you make a call, you do a lot of processing of the thought in your mind, and then you come up with a solution, and you use a lot of reasoning and logic behind it to reach that particular solution. So reasoning becomes very, very important in aptitude testing. Of course, reasoning can be divided into many fashions. Some of you may find that there's a verbal reasoning, there's a non-verbal reasoning, and I've written on this slide as deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning. So there are n number of classifications that you can say in reasoning, but for all practical purposes, reasoning is your ability to get out of a sticky situation. That's what fundamentally I would, of course, I would like to say that reasoning is your ability to really get out of a difficult situation, and all the processes that you follow to get out of that difficult situation is what you call as a reasoning. Now, if I talk about reasoning from exam point of view, from when you say any kind of entrance exam or banking exam or SSC exams, the most important thing is finding out patterns, your ability to arrange the data, your ability to solve puzzles. So you will have questions on, let's say, number series, letter series. You will have questions on direction sense. You will have questions on blood relations. You will have questions on, circular arrangement, linear arrangement, there's a double arrangement, all kinds of questions are there in reasoning. It could be missing words. There could be, certain table is given and certain numbers are given and there's a missing number, and you're expected to really find out those missing words. So that's what you call your reasoning skills. Now, primarily, if you look at reasoning, what I understand, my own personal understanding is fundamentally it's this deductive and inductive reasoning. You really need to understand this. Now, what is deductive reasoning? Deduce. When you deduce, that means there's something large. You keep on reducing, and you come down to some specific information, some specific logic, or some specific answer. Such a reasoning, such a logic is what you call as deductive reasoning. A simple example could be, let's say there are two best friends who never had a dispute in the college and they were always great. And one fine day you figure out that they were fighting, right? So you start thinking, what might have happened, what might have gone wrong. So you kind of think of all the possible activities that have happened between those two. You try to get this information from everywhere. And then out of that, you kind of rule out certain conditions and you kind of develop certain conditions and then come to a kind of conclusion. Okay, this might be the specific reason why this has happened. It's like police investigation, right? They try to gather a lot of information, right? So basically deductive is coming to a specific conclusion from broad generalization. It is like taking decisions specifically in management. you have market data, you have market input. There was COVID, then there was a slowdown, then there was government pumping a lot of money, then people are very apprehensive to spend. So there are so many inputs that you are having. Now it is up to you to take a decision how you are going to sell your product. Should you launch a new product? Should you expand the team? Should you increase the expenditure, or should you hold the expenditure? Because now you are having a lot of inputs in your mind and you are required to take a decision. So that is, if you have this ability, that a lot of input is given to you, a lot of information is provided to you, and you are able to crystallize this information into taking a single decision. That's when companies pay you lakhs of rupees. And what is that? Reasoning, deductive reasoning. What is inductive reasoning? Inductive reasoning is making a broad generalization from a very specific observation. So something may have happened. Using that happening, you are able to create an entire story. It's like story writing, or if you see some of these movies, they say that this was the instance which happened and I made a movie on this, right? Or they may have written a novel on a particular specific topic. You may have a chemical reaction which you've observed in nature. Using those chemical reaction that you observe, you are able to develop this entire theory. If you're a science student, you will understand that this wave theory of light and particle theory of light, all these have been developed by some specific observations. So if you have very specific observation and you are able to project the entire movie, that kind of reasoning is also needed in any organization. For example, if you're negotiating with somebody, talking to somebody, there are certain words that the person is going to speak. There are certain hints that the person is going to drop. There are certain things that he's going to say. Now, if you're able to get hold of those, subtle hints, and you are able to figure out what is going in his mind, you are a great negotiator. That's what you call as negotiation skills. And people pay big money for this. So if somebody is hiring you for any role, be it a junior role or a senior role, that company, organization, college would want you to have this kind of ability. And therefore, this is certainly tested. That's what we call as reasoning skills. So how do we really, go ahead and develop this kind of skills? So first thing is you need to comprehend the problems. In any reasoning question, if you see any of these reasoning question in books, specifically data arrangement and puzzles, half of the questions is solved only by really understanding what the question is asking us. 50% of the times our problems can be resolved if you really understand what the actual problem is. We keep on fighting, we keep on trying to do different kinds of solutions without really identifying the key problem. So identification of key problem in itself is a task, in itself is an agenda. So your ability of comprehension of a problem is of paramount importance. So how do you develop these skills? You develop these skills by observation. Of course, you can do it by solving questions, but observation in life, observation, what is happening around you, and trying to figure out what a possible outcome may happen of whatever observation you have seen. So let's say there's a class and it's getting disturbed. So you observe all those things. So what is the outcome of that disturbance? How will the faculty react to that? What is the impact you are going to have on your internal assessment for the same? Whatever your behavior is externally, internally, how is it going to impact you? If you're able to understand this, you will develop this intricate habit of comprehending issues, comprehending the problems. So when you try to comprehend the problems, assess the problems, you develop your reasoning skills. Right? More specific way of developing reasoning skills is solving Sudokus, numerical, alphabetic, whatever you want, because it will push your mind to different regions, different areas, different boundaries. So that is really going to help you develop your reasoning skills, because you have to rule out certain cases. ये नहीं हो सकता because यहाँ पे E है, ये नहीं हो सकता क्योंकि F है. So you kind of, there are many possibilities, you kind of rule out those possibilities. So that's helpful. You solve puzzles. Once again, what is puzzle? Puzzle is it's a complex issue, it's a complex problem. And you are expected to sort out that complex problem, and that is a puzzle. So it could be in the form of questions, it could be in the form of real life problem, it could be in the form of game. So you may pick up a game, you may pick up a question, you may pick up a real life problem. So that's how you focus, you ponder, you think, you work upon it. That's how you develop your reasoning skills. Once again, last but not the least, reasoning. There is certain innate, ability of certain people to have good reasoning. However, it can be developed by practicing this again and again. Practicing what? Practicing questions from books, and not only that, practicing this ability of comprehending problem. If somebody is trying to tell you something, listen to him and figure out what is the real problem. They will not tell you the real problem. They will beat around the bush, but they're not going to really specifically come down to a problem. It's up to you to understand what the problem is. If there's an employee who comes and says, sir, यहाँ पे लाइट कम है, ये एसी कम है, क्या है दिक्कत, ये समझ नहीं आ रहा है, यहाँ मच्छर काट रहे हैं, डेंगू हो जाएगा, so on and so, कुछ भी बहाने बना रहा है. Please understand, that's not the real problem. There is something else which is operating behind that. It's your job to figure that out. If you have this ability, people will want you. You will create a demand for yourself in the market, and you need to develop this. And develop by the suggestions that I have given to you. हाँ जी, बताइए, यहाँ तक कोई प्रॉब्लम है किसी को?
No, sir.
Okay. So we'll move down to the next idea. Now, the next idea is, having a good general awareness, GK. Well, I mean, it may not be very directly associated with aptitude in exam, but yes, it is important, and it is associated with aptitude, because your ability to, if you know what is happening around you, right? It helps you in developing all those skills which I mentioned earlier. So what is this general awareness? This general awareness is specifically of three kinds. One is known as a current awareness. That means whatever is happening in current scenario, that is, let's say, the current Prime Minister of India, that is a current awareness. The first Prime Minister of India, that is not current awareness, that is static GK. So there's something known as a static GK. There's something known as a dynamic GK. Static GK is something which does not change, which is always fixed. As I mentioned earlier, example, the first President of India is fixed. The first Prime Minister of India is fixed. The current President of India is not fixed. The current Prime Minister is not fixed. So these are known as dynamic GK. So in majority of these questions in exams or in these aptitude tests, 70 to 80% of the questions revolve around your dynamic GK. They're not expecting you to know the entire history. Of course, it is important to know the history, but they're not expecting you to know facts and figures. They're expecting you to know what is happening in the current scenario, not only in your city, district, state, or country, but also across the globe. So dynamic GK is something where we need to focus on. So it's something which is current, right? So, and business awareness, current awareness. So business awareness is important to the tune that, okay, ultimately we are mostly wanting to get into a job, kind of generate jobs or be economically, financially successful, and therefore having a decent aptitude for business awareness will enhance your chance of success in all the places that you have applied for. So if you're reading Economic Times, that's going to take care of your business awareness. If you're reading newspapers continuously and regularly, they're going to take care of your current awareness. And if you have read your 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th books of the social sciences books that we had. Subsequently, of course, it has geography, history, politics, economics. So if you have read these topics, that will take care of your what we call a static GK. Of course, if somebody is looking to prepare for a UPSC or SSC, then there is a more focused need for them to prepare the static GK, because the number of questions asked there in static GK is far more than it is asked in other aptitude-based examinations, right? So to that extent, general awareness is important. So how do you really improve your general awareness? You improve your GK by being conscious, by being aware about what is happening surrounding you. So there are many ways of being aware. Of course, one is physically being in touch with different people. Second is, getting information through news. Third is, of course, the social media. So if you're conscious, you are aware, you're really keen to know, what is happening around you, then you will have this aptitude of GK. Then that is when you will have this habit of learning new things. This is when you'll have, habit of developing new things. So that's most important in terms of general awareness. So these are the 4 key areas of aptitude. And I've not just talked about these, what is an aptitude in terms of constituents and aptitude, but how do we also develop. So I have one more slide for general development of aptitude. But before I proceed, I need to spend 10 to 15 minutes answering queries if you have. Now, if you don't have any query, that means you have a poor aptitude for learning. So there are different ways of testing. So asking questions shows your aptitude for acquiring knowledge and information. So I need to see this aptitude in you guys, at least the spark of that aptitude. So I see there are around 120 students. So ideally, I would expect you to have 120 questions, but I cannot take those. So show some leadership aptitude and fire your queries.
So students who have any query, they can switch on the video and directly ask to the speaker, or they can write in the chat box also.
Okay. So we have Rakshanda, we have Ame, we have Nitya, we have Upari, we have Ravi, we have Vijay, Nirmala, we have Radhika, we have Sugandh, we have Sahil, Rohit, Sudhir, Nishant, Prashant, Gitika, Sukhmanjot, Gopal.
Hello,
Well,
am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Actually, sir, I am a bit disappointed. Like you were saying, numbers are the most important things. And to be very honest, I am very, very, very harsh at mathematics. So is there anything like how can I develop myself? Because I am good, already good at each and everything. Like I am working here as a overall placement coordinator, doing graphics, coding. But at mathematics, I am literally very, very, very bad. I can't even imagine the same thing.
Okay. Since you are doing coding, chances are you must be having reasonable logic. That's one. Now, if you really have logic, then math should not be bad. So the point is you're lacking possibly in spending time with mathematics, because it is more of a practice after you have a good logic. Now, since you are already into some sort of coding and designing and you feel that you're reasonably good, chances are you will have a good maths. You may be afraid of maths when you are in class 9th or 10th. And from that point of time, my personal assessment by talking to you, whatever you have said, is that from then onwards, you've not really taken up mathematics ever. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Actually, I am having a phobia of mathematics since my class 12th. So I'm
Okay.
avoiding the same thing.
True. So yes, because there you have taken maths in 11th and 12th, and this could be really, really difficult because there's a substantial increase in difficulty level from class 10th maths to class 11th and 12th maths, right?
Yes.
So a lot of students have this problem, and they end up having this fear psychosis of mathematics throughout their life. Now, please understand, the maths that is required for most of the activities is mathematics that you study till class 10th level. So my suggestion is, if you can pick up these 8th, 9th, 10th class CBSE books and give some half an hour or 30 minutes daily for next 15-20 days, I can guarantee and promise you that this phobia is going to melt away. So
Okay, sir. Thank you.
that's exact activity that you are really required to do. 8th, 9th, 10th class CBSE maths and daily half an hour for 22 days. There's a rule of 22. If you can really follow something 22 days, chances are you can do ahead. So that will help you really.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, anybody else? Anything?
Yes, sir.
Hanji, bolo.
So sometimes it happens that we prepare for an exam, we prepare for the aptitude, but when the exam occurs, we fail to pass it. Why so?
Yes. It is because you have done a lot of practice. You have spent a lot of time in building your concepts and theory. What you are missing out is the time management part of it. You may have possibly gone through a couple of institutes material. You may have done a lot of hundreds of questions, but the problem is your time management. You need to take full-length tests at the same time at which your exams is to be conducted. For example, if your exam is conducted from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, and you have a habit of studying or doing questions in the early morning 5, 6, because that is the time you do the questions best, you will not do well in the examination because your body clock does not match with the clock of your practice. So if you're done with your everything, you need to practice in a time bound manner. If it's a 2-hour examination, fix up a 2-hour and take full length test and complete it within 2 hours only. If 2 hours are over, don't do anything, and do at the time of the schedule of your test. That's very, very important. You will see, just do this. Trust me, you will increase your score by 15 to 20% just by doing this, by making sure that you are taking full length test at the time of your actual test. That's it. That's all you have to do. That's why you're not able to perform sometimes in the exam. You need to take full length test. That's important. Time bound.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, Amey Bindra wants to ask that in developing verbal aptitude, how much novels should we be reading for improving our vocabulary? As I am very avid reader, so it doesn't hamper other things.
The more the merrier. The more you read, the better it is. Amey, it is always better the more you read. That's that. The only point is the quality of novels that you are reading, right? So you may be, you may start with Chetan Bhagat and then end up with philosophical novels like Conversation with God, something like this. So the level of novels, the authors of the novels is going to be important for you to develop your vocabulary. Now it really depends why you want to develop your vocabulary. For example, if you want to give GMAT, right? If you want to give GRE, you are looking to go abroad, then you should be reading novels which are authored by American writers, right? If you're looking to give some TOEFL, if you're looking to get into some European company, if you're looking to get into some college in London, try to read people who have authors from UK. So it will really depend on what is your need and requirement for building this vocabulary, right? So my suggestion is, I don't know at which level of author you are as of now, but then the last level is the philosophy part of it, which is pretty difficult to understand. The red colored look beautifully black. I mean, that's some author writing some sentence. You got to figure this out, right? So that's how you do it.
Okay, sir.
All kinds of books, Ritik. Start with reading newspaper. That is step number 1. Then step number 2, start novels which are thin, which do not have more than 200 pages. Otherwise, you will not be able to finish them. Then, depending on your interest, you can go and read this Shiva trilogy. It is very interesting. Then you can read novels by Dan Brown. Depending on your interest. And then you can, of course, go ahead and then maybe read Fountainhead. And if you're, if you're a fan of, let's say, J.K. Rowling, you may go through the entire series of Harry Potter as well. Okay, yes, Sivatar, yes, it is good. I have read it. Try reading Dan Brown also. They are also good books. You will love it. You may start with Digital Fortress in the meanwhile, I have a few more questions. How to increase speed in quant as we know any competition? Yes, I told you that the way you speak, the way you improve your speed is by time management. So when I say time management, that means, let's say you are having 20 questions in an exercise, set up a clock and give yourself 25 minutes. Try to solve those 20 questions in 25 minutes and then close it. After 25 minutes, go through the sheets and see how many questions you are able to do in 25 minutes. That is one assessment. Then step number 2, what you need to do, then take your own time, aadha ghanta, pauna ghanta, whatever you feel like, take your time and then try to solve those rest of the questions. Then you will come to know that there were questions that you could do it because you have the knowledge of that question, but you could not do in the given time span. And that is where you lack. So all you need to do is, whenever you practice any question, have a clock in front of you. That will put additional pressure on you during practice as well. Now, the problem, what happens with most of the aptitude is, when you're preparing, there is no pressure. But when you're sitting in the examination, it is like you're sitting in a pressure cooker. And now you are not used to this kind of pressure. And that's when the examinations go haywire. That's when examinations go wrong. Because when you're reading normally, you are comfortable in your house, AC chal raha hai, mummy chai pila rahi hai, aaram se 2 takiya laga ke pad rahe ho. But when you're sitting in the examination, the clock is ticking, the faculty is saying, okay, time's 5 minutes gone, last 5 minutes, and so on and so forth. It puts a lot of pressure. I'm sure you watch this KBC, right? What happens when Amitabh Bachchan says, ki ghadi mahan se ruk jaiye? So when there is a pressure of time, people go wrong. Okay. Have I answered your question on maths? Okay. Ritik says, is it advised that we should take notes while reading books? So my question is it necessary? No, it's not necessary that you take notes while reading books. But you will certainly take mental notes. It depends why you're reading this book. If you're reading for pleasure, you don't need notes. But if you're reading some books for your preparation of exam, it makes sense that you take notes. But if you're reading novels, books, I don't know what books. If it's a academic books, you must take notes. If it's a casual reading, it's not required. But if you must have this ability of, ability to write few pages after reading an entire novel. You should be able to tell what this entire novel was all about. So the answer to, is it necessary? Yes, for academic books, no for novels. That's the answer.
Sir, Gopal wants to ask that which newspaper is best for reading. Can we go for Guardian or New York Times after having command on Hindu?
Reading Guardian or New York Times, yes, NYT is good because I mean I'm not really sure, Gopal, why you are asking this question, because if you're asking this question for GMAT or GRE, yes, it makes sense. If you're asking for CAT, yes, it makes sense because some of the reading comprehension passages have been asked from New York Times. There have been certain articles which were published in NYT and which were asked in the exams conducted in India. Yes, so it does make sense for you to go ahead and do that. Yes, Gopal, have I answered your question? Yes, Kajal wants to ask something. You're not audible, you can.
Yeah, right. So ask the aptitude is all about reading and or something else, newspapers and novels and all. So is this all related to reading only? Or if yes, then how can I boost my aptitude if in case I am, in a less used to having readings and all? I didn't like so much of reading, but then how I can boost my aptitude, because it is also very important for us.
Okay. I have a question. Can we go for it? Yes, absolutely. Indian Express is a good newspaper to start with. It's the first newspaper that one can start with. Of course, it is more bland. It's more dry when compared to Times of India because it has a lot of, color pages in Times of India. It's more masala kind newspaper. If you look at Times of India, Indian Express is more balanced newspaper. Times of India is, if you look, it is pro-government. Indian Express is a neutral paper. If you look at Hindu, it's normally anti-government. So if you look at government in terms of orientation, political orientation of these newspapers, these are the orientation. Yes, Indian Express is a good newspaper as far as English and language is concerned. Right. And the question that Kajal asked, how do we really improve your aptitude? See, Kajal, you start by reading newspapers. I told you there's a reason why I have said newspapers. It is not certainly it has a GK value of it, but then there are words which are repetitive, right? So repetition of words will help you to recall. Repetition of words will give you the meaning of the word even without looking at dictionary. Because some of you may be thinking, and when you read, you start opening dictionary for every word. If you open dictionary for every word, every sentence in newspaper, you will never be able to read newspaper. Don't read like this. Step one, just read. The answer is just read without understanding. Don't worry. You will start understanding in 15-20 days. If you think कि सर मैं पढ़ तो रही हूँ लेकिन कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा, क्या करूँ? Don't worry, नहीं आ रहा तो कोई बात नहीं, पढ़ो, फिर भी पढ़ो. Eventually you will understand because newspapers have this habit of continuous news. जो न्यूज आर्टिकल आ जाए उसका फॉलो अप कल आएगा, फिर थोड़ा बहुत परसों आएगा, थोड़ा नरसों आएगा. So there's a continuity in news. So even if you start anywhere, you may not understand what is happening, but if you keep on reading this newspaper for some days, you will be able to correlate these instances, and not only you'll understand what is happening in the world, you'll also get used to the language, the grammar, and the vocabulary that is being used in newspaper. So that's one advantage of that. Second, you asked about novels. How is it going to help you? See, when you read novels, you imagine. What do you imagine? See, when you watch YouTube, you simply watch, you feel happy, and then you switch it off. But when you read, it is a kind of story. And when you read, the story builds in your mind. So when these stories are built in your mind, there is an image which is created in mind. So there's a lot of activity which is happening in your mind, and that makes your brain more active. If it makes more active, it makes more aware. It helps because now your mind knows that it needs to create a lot of images, and there will be cell division that is going to happen in your brain. So when there's more cell division, more gray cells, bigger brain, chances are bigger mind. So that's how it helps. Maths also does the same thing. Reasoning also does the same thing. So is music. So is all other activities. So newspaper and reading novel will help you imagine. It will help you create. It will help you build your vocabulary. It will help understand how others think and present their ideas to you. So that's how it helps. How do you prepare for data interpretation for CAT examination? And as we know it, how difficult, it is a difficult section of CAT. Okay. See, the difficulty of data interpretation in CAT is not because of data interpretation. It is because data interpretation is mixed with logical reasoning, and that is what makes the question difficult. If you look at previous few years paper, the DILR section or DIDSLR section as we call it, most of the questions in that were not data interpretation. In fact, no question, no purely DI question has been asked for last few years. What is being asked? First, you have to use logic to reach to the data. Once you reach to the data, that is when you apply, data interpretation tools. So, of course, in DI, there are essentially 4 kinds of questions, right? Bar graph, line graph, pie charts, and tables. Now, fundamentally, these are the 4 kinds of questions that you get in CAT, and there's a mix and match of these questions. But before you reach to this, formation of tables or formation of pie charts, there's a lot of reasoning which is involved. That is what makes this difficult. It is not the DI that makes it difficult, Gopal. Look at the question. If your reasoning is good, the DI section will be more manageable. So you need to work on your reasoning, especially solve puzzles for this. If you really want to do DI section good, you need to be good at data arrangement and you need to be good at puzzle solving. So if you do these 2 things, you will do well with your DI section in CAT. ठीक है गोपाल? Listening to English podcast helps improve. Yes, it does help. You should listen. Yes. Yes, Ritik, it is going to help you if you read, if you listen to English podcast. Yes. Definitely. Yes, that's the answer. No, Ritik, this is something that you really need to do. I'm not into listening podcasts for people. My times were when we were listening to these songs by Bon Jovi and Boyzone. So we are of that era. So I'm sure there are new new people who do good job at this. Okay. Okay, so I'll just take you through the other slides so as to conclude, and of course, if there are any more questions, we can take up the same. So these are a few things that we really need to do for overall aptitude development. You need to indulge in creative activities. Now, once again, I told you, you are required to involve in activity which requires, cell division. So if you are good at, drawing, painting, poetry, writing, solving Sudokus, so these are, things that will help you in your aptitude. Please understand, the one we discussed right now in today's session is the aptitude which is asked for getting employment or getting admission. But aptitude is not just that. Aptitude is your ability to learn new things, your ability to, adapt quickly and then perform. So that's aptitude. So you really need to develop this habit. How do you develop this habit? You develop this habit by inventing things. Now, of course, invention is not easy, or creating something is not easy, but at least you may try. If you're an engineering student, maybe try something in your lab. MSc students, try something in your labs. I don't know what, but invent, create, whatever. You if you write anything, which is of your own, that is a creation, you will see how happy you feel. If you write a poetry, it may be a very stupid poetry, no matter what. If you write an essay, even if you make reports, just think of it. If you have not copied a report, you have made your own report, it gives you a lot of satisfaction. It gives you a lot of happiness because there's some sort of creation which has happened. And when there's a joy of creation, the mind, develops itself to enjoy such moments more and more. So it is an innate human tendency. It is innate human development to do what it likes. So if you enjoy sleeping, your mind would want you to create a situation where you sleep. If you like, watching, YouTube, particular kind of YouTubes, your mind will create time. Your mind will create situation where you start believing that watching this particular YouTube channel is going to help you. So you have to control it. So you control it by creating. So if you create something constructive, something new, it means you are giving a positive reinforcement to your mind that yes, okay, you see, if you do this, you'll get this entertainment, you'll get this joy. So the more you do, the more joy you feel, and it is a loop. So you get into a loop and you start, the mind creates a situation, it starts developing itself. Whatever lacuna or problems are there, which is preventing you from getting things done, it will remove that. So you need to invent and create, develop new skills. It could be anything. Let's say, it could be dancing, for example. You are very shy in dancing group. It's a wedding season, right? Now most of you go to the wedding, there's a DJ, and your chacha, taus, mamas pull you to the stage, and you're so shy. You want to do it in your heart. You really want to jump, but then there's no body movement, so you feel ki log kya sochenge, and you don't do it. The question is, what I'm saying is, just do it. If you think you're feeling like a moron, dancing on a dance floor, take a professional help. It's a new skill. Speaking is a new skill. Presentation is a new skill. Dancing is a new skill. Yoga is a new skill. Whatever. Do get something new. So when you get something new, it's like a child getting new clothes. It's very happy. So when you get something new, your mind is very happy. So when it is happy, it can do many things. And learning new things is something which it will indulge into again and again because it is feeling joy. It is feeling happy. So if you give happiness to your mind, it will repeat the process. So when you want to develop your mind, you want to improve your aptitude, you give it that kind of input that will help it to develop. Like, developing anticipation. So this developing anticipation is going to help you. How do you really develop anticipation? Let's say, more practical example could be, let's say you drive a car, right? Or you ride a bike. Now just think of a situation that you are driving in a city and you want to avoid putting brakes on your car, let's say. So if you think that you have to minimize the number of brakings or number of gear changes in your car, see, your driving will change. You will try to always anticipate what is happening with the person in front of you. You are anticipating whether he's going slow, whether he's going to take right, whether he's going to take left, whether he's going to put a brake on put a brake. Now, if you, even while riding or driving, you can develop this, you can work on towards developing your aptitude. So develop anticipation. I mean, it's a big risk for me to say, but just try this, that you don't want to put a brake and you drive slow in the city and see how many times you're able to succeed. And it is more so important in India that we anticipate how others are going to behave while driving. Unlike in some of the most advanced countries where they use indicators and dippers, nobody does that here. So, if you're a good driver, you have good aptitude, please understand, because you know how to navigate. You anticipate, while overtaking, you anticipate while braking, you anticipate while taking a right or a left turn. So if you do this, it's a new skill. And if you don't know how to ride, if you don't know how to drive, learn. It's a very good skill to have. I don't know out of 120 of you, how many of you know how to drive or ride, but you should learn both driving and riding. Of course, it's a new skill. Trust me, it's a new skill. It's a lifelong skill, and you'll appreciate me for this session. Even if you learn a driving, if you go to join a driving school tomorrow, go to Maruti and join, and you learn a new skill you will require in your future. It will help develop your anticipation skills. It will help you here in building in aptitudes. That's how you build this. Then you have to work on developing your gut feeling. So what's a gut feeling? A gut is like stomach, so you need to develop this habit of getting a correct answer even without knowing it. Sometimes you unknowingly know that this is the right answer. You don't know the reason, you don't know the logic, you're not studied, you just know it. That's known as gut feeling. Now, in these most competitive exams, somebody was talking about CAT, right? Or somebody appearing for UPSC examinations, right? Or in a high stake, questions where you don't know the answer. Gut feeling is something that's going to help you. Specifically in competitive examinations, gut feeling tells you, don't waste time on this question, or this question should be done, this question should not be done. Now, for example, since we're talking about aptitude, some of you would be also preparing. A lot of people would say, you do the easy question first and do the tough question towards last. Yes, great idea. How do you know it is easy? How do you know it is tough? Now, to know it is easy or tough, you need to solve it, at least read the question and, do a few steps. So, and if you do a few steps, you have already spent 30 seconds, 40 seconds, then you will find let's, finish it off anyway. So this, quote unquote, people saying, solve easy question first, it is easier said than done. How do you do it? You do it by developing a gut feeling. You scan the paper quickly and how do you develop this gut feeling? You develop gut feeling by practicing. It's a huge amount of practice that helps you to develop this gut feeling. All the drivers sitting out in this session would know it. If you're driving on a highway, you are talking on the phone, you are eating, you're doing something. It is not the conscious mind which needs to change the gear, it needs to put a brake, it needs to give indicator, it happens automatically because it is practice. It is such a repetitive activity that a voluntary action has become involuntary. Similarly, when you practice a lot of questions, aptitude-based questions, you practice a lot of questions, aptitude-based questions, your voluntary action of choosing tough and easy becomes involuntary. You will automatically know, ye nahi karna, ye nahi karna, ye karna, ye karna. It's like driving. It's gut feeling. Because you may not believe me when I say, okay, it's gut feeling while solving a question. But if you are a driver, you will believe me what I'm trying to tell you. It is a conscious, initially it's always a conscious action. It's voluntary action. But your mind is so trained, so tuned, it knows this is to be done. Similarly, when you practice aptitude, your mind knows this is tough, this is easy, attempt this, do not attempt this. That's how you develop gut feeling. And listen to your sixth sense and be conscious. That's my last advice for you to, develop your aptitude is listen to your sixth sense and be conscious. Now, I mean, it changes the realm of the topic when I say be conscious, but I would simply put it, be aware and listen to your sixth sense. There is always something in your mind which keeps telling you, this is not correct or this is correct. And it tells everybody. It is, some people understand this, some people do not understand because the knock is very, very mild. It's very slow knock. If you consciously listen to it, you will know this question is to be attempted, this question is not to be attempted, this decision is to be taken, this decision is not to be taken, this marriage proposal is to be accepted, this marriage proposal is not to be accepted. Whatever problems you have in life, you will always get an opportunity from your subconscious mind knocking you out, telling you, okay, this is the correct thing to do. If you are really aware, you are aware, then you know the answer. These things, not this thing, these things are going to help you build a solid foundation for your aptitude, which is nothing but ability to learn and perform. Thank you. Any questions now? Furthermore. Hanji, any question, queries? That should be all from my side.
No, sir, no question.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your precious knowledge. Now, I would like to call Assistant Director of Training and Placement Cell of Guru Jambheshwar University, Hisar, Mr. Aditya Veer Singh, sir, to extend vote of thanks.
Thank you, Rakshanda, and thank you very much, Pankaj Chaudhary ji, again for enlightening our participants with your great experience and knowledge. And I hope the participants would have learned a lot of things from you, and they will apply these things in their future endeavors so that they can have success ahead. Again, once again, thank you for inviting our invitation for giving lecture on this session. Thank you, Pankaj ji. Thank you once.
Thank you, sir.
Everyone is requested to switch on their camera for group picture.
Okay. Thank you, Pankaj ji. See you soon again.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
Bye.
So can I leave then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Feedback link is open, and you can give your feedback and mark your attendance there. And see you tomorrow again at 9:30 for the next session. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.